I used to believe that silence meant peace, that when a marriage became quiet, it was because you'd found comfort in each other's presence. But there's a different kind of silence, one that hums low, tightens your chest, and makes your instincts claw at the walls. That silence crept into my home 6 months ago. My wife, Elise, started answering with half smiles and one-word replies. She'd say, "Just tired," or "Work's been insane," and I wanted to believe it. God, I wanted to. 12 years together. 8 married. We built this life on routines, morning coffee, Friday takeout, weekend road trips. But now her eyes didn't stay on me when we talked. Her phone never faced up. She wore new lipstick and blamed it on a mood shift. I told myself I was imagining things, that I was being paranoid. But the night she left her phone on the kitchen counter while she went to the bathroom, I didn't hesitate. Just picked it up like I might move it. Just a glance, just curiosity. The lock screen flashed a preview. "Can't wait to feel you again." Same time. No name. Just a number. My chest went still. I placed the phone back exactly where it was. Sat at the table. Waited. When she returned, I looked at her. Really looked. The way her robe hung open just slightly. The scent that wasn't hers lingering around her neck. "You okay?" she asked, smiling like it was a normal Tuesday. I nodded. "Just tired." That night, I opened a new file on my laptop. Named it Elise. Truth. Not for revenge. Not even for closure. I just needed to know when it started. Who he was. How deep the lie went. Because if I was going to let her go, I was going to let her fall. By her own, carefully hidden truth. The next day, I installed a keystroke logger on her laptop. It wasn't hard. Elise never changed her passwords, not even when I suggested she should. I told myself it was just to ease the doubt, to quiet the growing pressure behind my eyes. But when I saw the first log from her late-night session, the doubt didn't fade, it detonated. "I can still taste you on my skin," he wrote. "Thursday can't come fast enough." Her reply, "Same room? I'll wear what you like." The words played in my head on a loop, like a cruel mantra. I read them while she stood in the kitchen 30 feet away, humming to a playlist we once danced to. My hands trembled on the keyboard, not from rage, but disbelief. I thought betrayal would feel fiery, explosive. Instead, it was cold, steady, and suffocating, like frost creeping across a window pane. That night, she came to bed in the satin set I gave her for our anniversary 2 years ago. "Missed you today," she said, running a finger across my chest. "You've been so distant." I didn't flinch. "Long day," I murmured, then rolled over. She let out a quiet breath and turned away. I stared at the ceiling until the dark turned to dawn. Over the next week, I documented everything. Emails, texts, location pings, and calendar events that lined up too perfectly with nights she claimed to be working late. I created a master timeline. Color-coded. Labeled. Proof stacked so neatly, it looked like a case file. I couldn't tell anyone. Not yet. Not until I knew how to weaponize the truth. But the lies kept coming. Like the one she told on Sunday, when she ran into an old friend at brunch. Her phone said otherwise. She texted him a photo of her mimosa with the caption, "Wearing the dress you like." No one suspects a thing. I saved it. All of it. Not out of spite. Out of precision. I wasn't preparing for a confrontation. I was preparing a performance. A finale. And when the curtain rose, Elise would be the one. Left. Standing. Naked in the spotlight. Elise's affair wasn't spontaneous. It was orchestrated. Rehearsed like a script she knew by heart. Each message was perfectly phrased. Every excuse polished smooth with time. She'd lied so often, I think she started to believe her own fiction. I stopped talking unless necessary. She didn't notice. Or she chose not to. Either way, it gave me room to operate. I bought a burner phone. Set up a separate cloud account. Transferred copies of everything. Texts, screenshots, GPS logs. I even placed a small recording device in the living room, hidden beneath the planter she never watered. The first night it recorded, I caught her pacing while I was at work, murmuring into the phone, "He's getting suspicious. I might have to cool it for a bit." A pause. Then, "No, I'm not backing out. I want this." I replayed it 10 times. Her voice, the tone, the certainty, it wasn't just infidelity. It was betrayal built with intention. She wanted this other life. One where I was just the placeholder, the cover story. I started researching venues. Not for a romantic dinner. For exposure. Elise was planning a small birthday party for herself in 2 weeks, just family, a few close friends, a nice evening with wine and catered food. I told her I'd handle the setup. She smiled and kissed me, said, "You're the best, you know that?" I nodded. "I try." I picked a venue with a projector wall. Quiet, elegant, intimate. I created a presentation, not a dramatic video, just a clean series of slides, messages, images, her hotel receipts. I placed a single quote on the last slide. "Every lie leaves a fingerprint." I scheduled the presentation to autoplay at 8:15 p.m., right after the cake, when everyone would be seated. In the meantime, I acted like nothing had changed. I helped her pick a dress. I ordered her favorite wine. I even bought her a gift, matching earrings to a necklace I knew she wore on her weekends away with him. If she wanted to live in a carefully built illusion, then she'd learn what it felt like to watch it collapse. In front of everyone she fooled. I woke up 3 days before the party with the distinct sense that Elise had started to feel the tremble under her feet. She didn't say anything outright, but she moved through the house differently. She watched me longer in the mornings, asked more questions about my day, offered to cook, which she hadn't done in months. "You've been quiet lately," she said while chopping carrots one night. "Everything okay at work?" I smiled. "Everything's great." She kept slicing, but her eyes never left mine. That night she tried to initiate sex. I declined, citing a headache. Her body stiffened next to me. She rolled over and faced the wall, but she didn't sleep. I could feel it in the rhythm of her breath, too shallow, too conscious. The next day, I pretended to forget something at home. I returned just before lunch and found her in the backyard, pacing. She was on the phone. "No, I don't think he knows. But something feels off. He's being too calm." Pause. "Yeah, I'll play it safe for now. We can pick it up after." After the party. She really thought she'd make it through. That it would just be another curated evening where she glowed in front of people who saw her as a radiant, faithful wife. I finalized everything that night. Labeled each folder on my presentation with the exact dates and images she tried so hard to erase. Her lipstick-smeared wine glass on the hotel nightstand. Her text, "Wish I could spend the night in your arms, not his." The photo she sent in my shirt to him. It was cruel, deliberate. And now, she was going to face it all. I added a final slide. White background, bold letters. "I believed in you." No drama, just truth. The kind that doesn't shout. Just stands in the room and tears the walls down with silence. The night before the party, Elise stood in front of our bedroom mirror, trying on the dress she'd bought weeks earlier. It was soft green, low-backed, clinging to her like an alibi. "Do I look okay?" she asked, adjusting her hair. I nodded. "You look unforgettable." She beamed. "You're sweet." I watched her admire herself, turning slightly, posing as if practicing for a camera flash. I wondered if she imagined how she looked to him. If she expected to sneak a photo in the bathroom and send it to Oliver with a coy caption. I knew his number now. His real name. He was married. 3 kids. A consulting firm and a wife who posted inspirational quotes about marriage and faith. I considered sending her everything, but I wasn't finished yet. The game had one move left, and it belonged to me. Elise had no idea the guest list wasn't exactly what she expected. 2 of her girls' night alibi friends had RSVP'd yes, not realizing they were part of a trap. I invited her parents, my brother, even her coworker Marlene, the one who always seemed unsure around Elise. The room would be filled with people who believed they knew her. I set up the tablet with the presentation and tested the remote control 3 times. It worked flawlessly. I rehearsed what I would say if she tried to stop me. I pictured her face as the images appeared, one after another, like bricks falling through a stained glass window. But it wasn't vengeance I felt. It was stillness. I didn't want chaos. I wanted her to sit in the center of the world she built and realize it was made of paper. Tomorrow, the match would strike, and Elise would watch. Everything she sculpted, curl, into smoke. The party began with soft music, clinking glasses, and just enough laughter to disguise the fault lines underneath. Elise looked flawless, her hair curled, makeup precise, the green dress flowing like a secret over her skin. She greeted each guest like royalty, hugging her mother a second too long, offering compliments like bribes. "I'm just so grateful tonight," she said as she raised a glass during a casual toast. "To love, to trust, to all of you for being part of our story." I watched her from across the room, sipping my wine, nodding when appropriate. She was radiant, rehearsed, and completely unaware that every second was ticking toward impact. I had timed everything carefully. The dinner was served at 7:30, the cake at 8 o'clock. By 8:15, Everyone would be in their seats, comfortable, distracted, full of dessert and small talk. That's when the screen would light up. The tablet sat on the edge of the bar cart, disguised among wine bottles and decorative candles. The projection screen was already rolled down, waiting behind closed curtains on the far wall. Elise had insisted it be used for a slideshow of birthday memories. "Let's show everyone our best years," she'd said. "I'll cry for sure." I told her I'd handle the tech, that she should relax. "It'll be the highlight," I promised. The irony didn't miss me. At 8:13, I clicked the remote from inside my jacket pocket. 2 minutes later, the music faded gently. The lights dimmed slightly, just as I had arranged with the venue manager. Elise looked around, confused. "Is this the slideshow?" she asked, half laughing. "I thought we were saving that for later." The screen flickered. The first image appeared, her and Oliver, mid-embrace in a hotel hallway. Clear. Undeniable. The room froze. Elise blinked once. Twice. Then her wine glass slipped from her hand and shattered on the floor. And for the first time in years, she had nothing to say. The silence in the room grew heavier with each slide. No narration. No music. Just image after image, timestamped truths and softly glowing evidence Elise couldn't explain away. A text thread appeared next, her words in blue, his in gray. "I need you tonight. I can't pretend with him anymore." Gasps rippled through the space. Her mother covered her mouth. My brother's brows lifted in quiet horror. Elise stood frozen at the center of it all, eyes locked on the screen, chest rising and falling like she'd run a mile. "Andrew," she finally breathed. What is this?" I didn't answer. The room answered for me. The fifth slide showed a calendar screenshot with overlapping events, her supposed conference weekend, overlaying a spot reservation for 2. Elise moved toward the screen, like proximity might erase what people were seeing. I stepped in her path. "I wouldn't," I said softly. "This is the only moment you don't get to control." She looked around, desperate for someone to save her. Amanda looked away. Her sister stood completely still. Marlene shook her head and muttered, "I knew something felt off." The slideshow paused on the final image, Elise in our bedroom mirror, taking a photo in my shirt. The caption, "He doesn't even realize this is for you." The screen went black. No applause. No sound. Just that lingering void where illusion used to be. Elise opened her mouth, but no words came out. Her hands trembled. "Please," she whispered, but the room was already shifting. Chairs scooted back. Someone cleared their throat. Her father walked out first. Her best friend followed. One by one, they left, each taking a piece of her stage with them. She turned to me last. "You've ruined me," she said, voice shaking. "No," I said, finally. "You did that. I just turned on the lights." And I left her there, surrounded by candles, cake, and the ashes of her performance. The story didn't stay in that room. It never does. By the next morning, whispers had turned to group chats, and screenshots from the presentation were already circulating in private circles. I didn't leak them. I didn't have to. People talk when they've seen something real, something raw. Elise tried to get ahead of it. She posted a carefully worded status that afternoon. "We all make mistakes. Some are more public than others. I'm asking for privacy as I navigate this chapter." Comments were disabled. Her friends didn't rally. Her family didn't repost. She spent that Sunday calling everyone who had been there. "I know because Amanda texted me. She's saying you ambushed her. That it was cruel." I responded with a single line. "Truth isn't cruel. It's just inconvenient for liars." Elise didn't come home that night. I didn't ask where she was. Her side of the closet was still half full, but her charger was gone. I sat in the living room with a scotch in silence, letting the weight of what I'd done settle in. There was no victory lap. No music swelling in the background. Just peace. The kind of peace that doesn't come from justice, but from the end of pretending. I printed a small stack of photographs, ones from better years. Elise laughing in the kitchen. Elise holding my hand at a vineyard. Elise sleeping under a blanket we fought over every night. I burned them in the fire pit. Not to forget, but to release. Because the version of her I loved never existed. She was a shadow on my wall. And I'd finally opened the curtains. Elise came home 3 days later, unannounced. No knock. No call. Just the sound of keys in the door like nothing had happened. I was in the kitchen, making coffee. She walked in slowly, like the walls might collapse if she moved too fast. She wore sunglasses indoors. Her hair was up, thrown together instead of styled. "Can we talk?" she asked, voice low. No arrogance left. I didn't answer, just slid her a mug. She sat at the island, but didn't drink. I don't know where to start, she said. Then maybe don't, I replied. She blinked. I deserve that. I waited. Let the silence stretch. It wasn't supposed to be like this, she whispered. It wasn't supposed to explode. It didn't explode, Elise, I said, finally. It unraveled. You just didn't feel the threads until they snapped. She looked up. Her eyes were red, mascara long gone. I ruined everything. You did. And now what? She asked, voice cracking. Do you want me to leave? Is that it? I shook my head slowly. You already left. Months ago. You just forgot to take your body with you. That one hit. She folded over slightly, elbows on the counter, head in her hands. I thought I could control it, she mumbled. That I could live both lives without hurting anyone. You didn't live two lives, I said. You lived a lie in one and committed slow murder in the other. She stared at me, silent. You think I'm cruel, she said. No, I replied. Cruelty implies intent. You're worse. You're selfish. She nodded slowly. So, what happens now? I stood, picked up my keys. Now, I go rebuild. And you sit in the silence you created. And with that, I walked out, leaving her in the echo of her own empty truth. I didn't answer her messages for the next week. Not the long ones that pleaded for conversation. Not the short ones that just said, please. I moved through my days with an eerie clarity, each hour marked not by anger, but by the absence of confusion. The fog was gone. The version of Elise I thought I loved had been peeled away like wallpaper, revealing cracks, mold, and rot underneath. I changed the locks, sent her a formal notice of separation. No drama, no confrontation, just a quiet severing, one paper at a time. My lawyer, a calm woman named Harris, asked, Do you want to list infidelity in the filing? I said yes. I wanted the truth in ink. That weekend, I cleaned the entire house top to bottom. Not out of cleanliness, but to reclaim it. I took down photos, packed up her jewelry box, and placed it in the attic. I donated the dress she wore the night of the party. I couldn't look at it without hearing her say, Do I look okay? As if the fabric could hide the fracture. People started reaching out. Friends I hadn't spoken to in months. One even said, I never really trusted her, but I didn't want to interfere. I appreciated the honesty, but I didn't need validation. I wasn't looking for someone to tell me I did the right thing. I just wanted stillness. And stillness came. Slowly. In the early mornings, when I drank coffee alone on the porch. In the quiet buzz of a Sunday afternoon where no one asked where I was going or who I was seeing. It wasn't freedom with fireworks. It was something softer. The kind of peace that hums under your skin. I wasn't healed yet, but I was whole. And for the first time, in far too long, I didn't miss what I thought we had. 2 weeks after the party, Elise's sister showed up at my door with a cardboard box. She looked exhausted, her voice brittle with discomfort. She asked me to return these, she said, placing the box on the porch between us. And she said, she's sorry. I nodded, but didn't invite her in. She wants to talk to you, she added, I scanning mine. Says she's not sleeping, that she's falling apart. She fell apart the moment she chose him, I said. Now she just doesn't have an audience. Elise's sister flinched, then nodded. I told her that too. When she left, I brought the box inside. It was filled with little things, an old journal, a framed photo of us from 5 years ago, a birthday card I'd written her that simply said, No one knows me like you do. The irony wasn't lost on me. I threw it all in the fireplace. No dramatic pause, no ceremonial final glance. Just flames, and the faint curl of smoke rising like ghosts that had overstayed their welcome. That night, I dreamed of nothing. And it was beautiful. The next morning, I booked a solo trip. 3 days upstate in a small cabin by the lake. I left my phone off. Woke up with sunlight on my face and no expectations waiting on the other side of the door. I wrote. I walked. I let myself breathe again. I didn't think about Elise. I didn't replay the slideshow. I let the silence become something other than a warning. And when I returned home, I opened the back door, stepped into the garden, and finally saw the space as mine. Not hers. Not ours. Just mine. Clean. And quiet. And finally real. Elise filed her response to the divorce petition 3 days late. Her lawyer tried to request mediation, citing emotional distress and miscommunication. My lawyer forwarded the documents without comment. I declined. There was nothing left to negotiate. The terms were clear, the evidence overwhelming, the damage irreparable. I wasn't angry, I was efficient. Elise, on the other hand, was beginning to spiral. I heard from a mutual friend that she'd quit her job, that Oliver had ghosted her shortly after the fallout. Apparently, his wife found out and made sure their house was emptied before Elise could even message him again. One affair, 2 homes destroyed, and one woman suddenly realizing she wasn't the exception, just another complication in a string of careless choices. I didn't smile at the news. I didn't gloat. I just nodded, poured myself a drink, and went back to organizing my studio space. I had plans, ideas that had been buried beneath years of emotional noise. A podcast about untold stories. A book on relational blind spots. Nothing preachy, just honest. The kind of content I wished I had listened to years ago. Meanwhile, Elise sent one final email. I don't expect forgiveness. I just hope one day you remember the parts of us that were good. I did love you once. I know that may not matter now, but I need you to hear it. I stared at the screen for a while, then archived the message without replying. I didn't need her to love me then. I needed her to respect me, while she still had me. And since she didn't, there was no room for anything else. Spring rolled in quietly, almost ceremoniously, as if the world itself understood I needed something fresh. The divorce papers were finalized with a smooth, sterile signature from both sides, no courtroom, no objections, no drawn-out theatrics. Elise didn't fight for the house. She didn't even ask to walk through it one last time. I think she knew the walls themselves had witnessed too much. I repainted the bedroom, took down the blackout curtains she always insisted on, let the light flood the space each morning. I even bought new sheets, bright white, clean and crisp, the kind that don't carry memory. On a quiet Sunday, I boxed up the final remnants of her, a forgotten scarf, a ring she used to wear on her middle finger, an old hairbrush still holding strands of her deception. I dropped the box at her sister's doorstep without a note. No farewell, no ceremony, just return to cinder. That night, I stood on the back porch, watching the wind bend the trees. My mind wandered not to Elise, but to myself, the version of me that lived in the shadow of her lies. The man who thought compromise meant disappearing a little more each day. He was gone now. In his place stood someone quieter, more certain. Not bitter. Just done. Truly done. I deleted the Elise Truth folder from my external drive. No backup. No trace. Because the story had been told. And there's nothing more dangerous to a liar than a man with nothing left to prove. I saw her one last time by accident. It was a Wednesday, early evening. I had stopped by a small bookstore cafe on the east side, one of those cozy, plant-filled places with low lighting and handwritten menu boards. She was sitting alone at a corner table, back straight, eyes hollow, staring at a half-finished cup of tea. Her phone was face down. Her hands were motionless. She didn't see me. I didn't approach. I watched her through the reflection in the glass while pretending to scan the poetry shelf. There was no glow left in her. No trace of the woman who once orchestrated entire scenes to keep a web of lies intact. Just someone who looked like she hadn't slept properly in weeks. Someone who had been abandoned not just by the man she cheated with, but by the version of herself she couldn't pretend to be anymore. A barista called my order. I took it and left without looking back. I didn't need words. That moment was the full-circle ending to a story I no longer lived in. I went home, watered the garden, then opened my laptop and began sketching out an essay. What it means to love someone who was never really there. Not out of bitterness, but as an offering. A message to someone like me, 1 year earlier, staring at the signs, doubting their gut, excusing the patterns. The words poured out fast, clean, true. I submitted it anonymously to a medium-sized journal. It was published 2 weeks later. I never told anyone it was mine, but I got an email from a reader. This saved me. Thank you, whoever you are. And for the first time, I realized her betrayal had bloomed into someone else's beginning. The day the essay went viral, I got a text from an unknown number. Just one sentence. You really had to ruin me twice, didn't you? No name, no signature, but I knew the voice behind the words. Elise hadn't responded to anything else in weeks, not the divorce filing, not the asset division, not the letter from my lawyer confirming the house transfer, but the essay that pierced her armor. I didn't respond. There was nothing to say. The story hadn't used her name. It hadn't needed to. Her actions had written themselves into the DNA of every paragraph. But that's the thing about people who build their lives on manipulation. They don't fear lies being exposed. They fear losing control of the narrative. And she had lost it completely. A few days later, I received a message from someone else. Her former coworker. He wrote, "I don't know how much you know, but Elise falsified a bunch of reports last year to take time off. HR's investigating. I thought you should know. You're not the only one she betrayed." I thanked him. Quietly. Discreetly. I didn't need to get involved. I didn't need to see it burn. She was doing that all on her own. That night, I walked through each room of my home, touching the surfaces she used to claim. The dining table. The old armchair she once curled into with lies tucked behind her smile. I felt nothing. No longing. No hate. Just distance. Beautiful, clean distance. I lit a candle in the kitchen and watched the flame dance, steady and bright. Elise once told me, "I hate fire. It always feels like it wants to eat everything." Funny. That's exactly what her secrets did. And now, the fire belonged to me. It took time. Quiet, deliberate time. But I planned the final chapter not with rage, but with precision. I bought out her share of the house without argument. Legally clean. Emotionally silent. Elise never contested the terms. Perhaps she thought there was dignity in retreat. Perhaps there was nothing left for her to hold on to. I renovated the guest room into a creative studio. Repainted the walls in a warm, calming gray. I filled the bookshelves with titles I'd never had the space to read. Started sketching story outlines for a memoir, not about her, but about what survival looked like in slow motion. I named it The Echo in Her Silence. The irony wasn't lost on me. One day, while clearing out the garage, I found a box she must have forgotten. Inside were letters I had written her over the years, anniversary cards, silly notes, quiet affirmations. I read one. It ended with, "No matter what happens, I believe in us." I burned the entire box that night, not out of hatred, but to set the past free. The next morning, I mailed a single envelope to her new apartment. No return address. Inside was a photograph of the house, bathed in golden morning light, garden in bloom, windows open wide. On the back, I wrote only, "This is what honesty grows." There was no need for her to reply. My revenge wasn't loud. It wasn't cruel. It was this. A life rebuilt. Stone by stone. Where her shadow could never reach again.